that, like, it's important to say that I'm pro everyone having the right to a safe space. And I think that the situation here, though, is that one person's safety cannot be at the expense of another's. And I read this piece earlier, and the language used in debates like this is really important and also really powerful. And one of the sentences in the letter says there is no justifiable reason to introduce dangerous and uncomfortable spaces into schools, right? But a space itself can't be dangerous, can it? So this intimates that the people using the space are dangerous. If something dangerous has happened, then that's really serious and it needs to be addressed. But if it hasn't, then I feel like it's the language itself that is dangerous, because it's sort of weaponizing the language against the small amount of people that are very pro.
Okay. Why not just have a third block of toilets? Why not just have male toilets, female toilets, and toilets for anybody who doesn't identify with either or whatever? Would that not make matters much more easy, Izzy?
Yeah, so I mean, I basically don't believe that there should be any such, confusion with toilets. For the longest time, we have had separate toilets for both male and female for their biological sexes. I don't have any idea why adults are pushing this into schools. It seems quite perverse to me to inflict young children with adult sexual, ideas, because this ultimately, no child goes home saying, I want gender neutral toilets. So why are you deliberately inbreeding this into children so they can start thinking about, well, I want to go to toilets with boys, or I want to go to toilets with girls. And ultimately, this is more pushed onto females. It's females that have to give up their spaces. It's females that should feel some way that, boys should have to, come in with them, because girls, even girls who identify with being a boy do not ask to go into male toilets. So why are adults always using children, in particular in schools where the parents are not there? Why is it always children that are being used to somehow carry an agenda for adults?
Kirsty, Kirsty, am I right in thinking your child is gender neutral, identifies as they? And I wonder, is your child one that would want one of these spaces or would want to use a gender neutral loo?
I would say that my child has been exploring their gender identity, and where I live in the UK is Brighton down south, and I think that we are very open-minded down here. We are very sort of people just need to be happy, and I think that as it goes back to what I said before about one person's safety shouldn't be at the expense of another's. And I think I understand if there are girls that want to use a girls' toilet, but we also have to understand that there are a growing number of children that actually are requesting gender-neutral toilets. I mean, I prefer gender-neutral toilets. And I think one of the reference points in the girls' letter also, which I agreed with, is that there are girls that aren't using the toilet because they don't feel safe and they're getting UTIs. Well, this happens with boys as well, and trans people as well. If they haven't got a safe space to go to the toilet, there was a school locally to us where lots of kids were developing impacted bowels. So it's not, to me, this isn't even a gender
I'm sure
issue.
You're getting quite irate over Kirsty's idea there about experimenting, that you're opening this up and kids say, hey, why don't you try this? You might like this.
I mean, I can assure that boys are not, getting UTIs because they're not going to the toilet, because they cannot go into the toilet with girls. I mean, I think that's a ridiculous claim, completely. I mean, we have generations of, young children not developing UTIs because boys, are unable to go into the toilets with girls. Again, I believe that this is parenting. I believe that this is coming from the parents. If my child said to me he wanted to go into a toilet with girls, I would correct him and say, you're a boy. You need to go into the toilet with other boys. If parents are not able to basically if your child cannot come home and speak to a parent and the parent cannot give sensible advice, this is the problem. You know, children go to school to learn, and they shouldn't be, you know, thrown into the transgender debate and be used in order to push this. And it gets pushed into the schools, so therefore it should be pushed into the wider society.
Yeah, well,
and it is wrong. It's really, really wrong to be using schools and children in this way.
Yeah, and many people might agree with you, but we're hearing stories of teachers being sacked when they don't refer to a person as a cat in school, and teachers have to respond to demands from children, and it is a fact that the demands have significantly increased in the last 5 years from kids for these gender-neutral toilets.
Because of parents, and because of the wider society, organisations being fed into schools to be allowed to basically, you know, ramble over children and try to indoctrinate children into these ideologies, and it's wrong. You know, schools should be safeguarded. Schools should not be allowed to have any organisations, especially organisations that are pushing this transgenderism onto children deliberately, so children are brainwashed from the very get-go, so when they get older they can fight their battles, or you know, and say that, you know, we are this way and we've been affected. If parents were, you know, there for their children and making sure that their children, you know, are corrected from the very beginning, rather than exploring. I don't even know what that means, exploring gender. All children are born female and male.
We've got to leave it there. Kirsty and Izzy, thank you both very much indeed.
I just feel like I just want Kirsty to have, if it's all right, just one quick response, just because there were sort of criticisms of her parenting, and I just think, just give her a chance to have one quick word back.
I think that, like, I do respect your viewpoint on this. Of course I do, because that's your personal viewpoint and it's important. You know, we live in a society of free speech. So I want to say that, but also I want to say that for me and for parents, I guess, that parent in the same way that I do, it's really important to me to have an open dialogue where our children can express themselves. And transgender people have been around forever, and queer people have been around forever. It's just that right now we're pushing for a more inclusive society where people can be themselves.
Thanks, Kirsty.